Supply management is a touchy topic in Canada, and lots of people are talking about it now, mainly due to Conservative leadership hopefuls arguing back and forth about it. Maxime Bernier is the candidate proposing to abolish supply management. He says that it only benefits about 10% of farms in Canada and explains more on why he wants to get rid of the policy here.
It is a cartel, it is a socialist system, and we, consumers, Canadians, are paying for that. And the producer under supply management, the dairy producer, the poultry producer, and the eggs producer, they're receiving a big privilege. And you know, it's a kind of a regressive tax. Poor people are paying for that 5 times. They're paying twice the price for these products if you compare the price in other countries. So we must get rid of that. But it is difficult because they are a huge cartel and a very powerful special interest group.
The policy regulates supply and enables farmers to negotiate the price of mainly milk, eggs, and poultry. Right now, there are about 17,000 farms in Canada that operate under supply management, which accounts for about 8% of farms in the country, with dairy farmers making up the vast majority. Some say that it makes things more expensive for Canadians, goes against a free market system, and punishes consumers with high pricing. Canada brought supply management in during the 1970s to address unstable pricing and supplies, along with fluctuating producer and processor incomes. It's a pretty broad topic, but the basics are that production is met with consumption and imports and exports are taken into account in order to ensure that shortages and surpluses aren't a problem. Producers pay thousands of dollars for permits and quotas in order to be able to operate, and those permits are limited. So because permits are limited, that also means that supply is limited, and some say that makes the prices of goods higher. That's one side of the story, but others say that Canada's pricing is competitive. Like here, where the dairy farmers of Canada claim that we pay about $1.30 per litre of milk. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a liter of milk for $1.30. It's usually much higher. And according to the Numbeo website, the average price of a liter of milk is $2.09, and Canadians can be paying up to $3.48 per liter. So we likely do pay more than the average cost around the world. There are also duties imposed on foreign dairy products. It's like a protectionist measure to keep foreign products out of the Canadian market. This Financial Post article even goes as far as suggesting that Canadians could be saving $438 per year were we allowed to import dairy products from the United States freely. The author also states supply management pushes some low-income families below the poverty line. Again, the dairy farmers of Canada attempt to dispel this as a myth, but if you look at their own graph, sure, Canada does have the highest market access for both dairy and poultry, but at 8%, that's not all that significant of a figure. And then there are the tariff rate quotas to factor in, and when products being imported are over the limit, higher access commitment fees have to be paid. Of course, these costs aren't just soaked up, they're paid by the consumer. Another argument that's out there is that after Australia's dairy industry was deregulated, prices went up. But government intervention in Australia artificially set the price of dairy high in order to compensate for things like trade losses, and by the mid-1980s, the dairy subsidy was 57%. So of course, when deregulation occurred and the world market started to control prices, dairy costs stabilized to meet with competitive world pricing. And stabilization doesn't always mean prices for farmers are favorable. By that time, Australians had paid for overpriced products for decades. And let's not forget that when permits to produce and supply are limited and expensive, that means that there are less farmers wanting to enter the industry. Overall, I think that anything the government has its hands in is bad news simply because it usually involves protectionist policies, which usually favor one entity over another, and in the case of supply management, the consumer seems to be left out. It means less choice for consumers because trade is limited, and it means higher costs for consumers due to having to pay for common floor prices set by boards and farmers. Like I always say, the government shouldn't be in the business of making business policies or running one either. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas. Thanks for watching. Have you signed up for the Rebels emails yet? Click the link to the side if you haven't so that you don't miss any of our updates.